$4.7 billion approved, most of it to agriculture, manufacturing, and energy. On the external sector, Speaker, revenue data indicates that export earnings during the first 8 months of this year were $8.18 billion, compared to $7.26 billion during the same period last year. In other words, our export base is rising. The better performance was mainly due to rising copper prices and favorable prices. During the same period, imports amounted to $8.21 billion, representing an increase of 18.8%, as more and more machinery and other equipment gets imported in our country, which is positive for the near future. Madam, over the last 4 years, non-traditional exports grew by 37.3% and were $3.54 billion in 2024. It ends July 2025 from $4.3 billion at the end of December 2024. In terms of import cover, this was equivalent to 4.8 months of imports. Let me now go to macroeconomic objectives, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, to consolidate economic and social gains towards a prosperous, resilient, difficult Zambia, government has set the following macroeconomic objectives for 2026. A, attaining real GDP growth rate of 6.4%. B, reduce inflation to the 6 to 8% target band. C, maintain gross domestic reserves at around 4 months of import cover. D, increase domestic revenue to at least 2.3% of GDP. E, reduce fiscal deficit to 2.1% of GDP. And F, limit net domestic borrowing to 2.3% of GDP. Madam Speaker, I will now run through policies and strategies for 2026. Policy strategies for 2026. And as I do so, I'll follow the pillars that are enshrined or which are in the 8th National Development Plan. Those pillars are what we do about economic transformation and job creation, what we do about improving human capital, in other words, education, health, and others, what we do about environmental protection, what we do about good governance. So this is the format of how I'm going to talk about policies for 2026. Let me therefore start with economic transformation and job creation. Madam Speaker, it is vital our country experiences strong economic growth year after year. The jobs that we desperately need and the increased revenue seek to spend on social services and public infrastructure become available only with strong growth. Building on the strong growth of the past 4 years, we must ensure as a country that it not only sustained but accelerates. Madam, upon assuming office 2021, we pledged to grow the economy through industrialization and economic diversification. Over the past 4 years, the country has attracted significant investments in mining, manufacturing, tourism, energy, and other sectors. Our efforts in revamping and growing the economy are evident. Let me now, Madam Speaker, at this point, go through sector by sector what policies will be implemented so that growth takes place in those sectors, so that those sectors drive the growth of the economy. And this, at the starting point, Speaker, the starting point is mining. Madam Speaker, performance of the mining sector has definitely improved without a doubt. Copper production increased to 821,000 tons in 2024 from 737 in 2023. In 2025, the target of 1 billion metric tons of copper production is already in sight as we continue with the journey towards the 3 million tons target per annum by 2031. This positive performance, in other words, this positive performance of making sure that the mines produce more, not the mines to close, not the mines to reduce production, but increase production. This is what is going to contribute to positive economic growth. The positive performance, Madam Speaker, is at the back of stable mining tax and the regulatory regime, and certainly Madam,
Oh, the honorable members, please, can we the budget address? There's a lot of talking on both sides of the aisle. Both
Madam, progress among economic mineral potential using the countrywide high resolution area geophysical study is at 34%. First time in the history of this country. Since the exercise was launched July 2024, so far, western and parts of northwest provinces have been covered. And in 2026, this work is going to continue and there will be budgetary provisions to support the continuation of this work. Madam Speaker, to regulate and monitor the development and management of mineral resources in the country, government enacted the Mineral Regulation Commission Act of 2024. And the commission coming out of that will be operational by the end of this year. This commission will work hand in hand with Zambia Revenue Authority to adhere to provided tax laws. Madam, the budget that I shall announce this afternoon contains some investments in the sector to consolidate economic and social gains we've made so far. Let me move on to the next growth sector of agriculture, livestock and fisheries. Madam Speaker, upon assuming office, we embarked on transforming the agriculture sector by addressing low production and productivity, limited market access, underdeveloped value chains, dependence on rain-fed agriculture, and adverse effects of climate change. Madam, a maize bumper harvest of 3.7 million metric tons was recorded during the 2024-2025 farming season. This was due to good rains, but also importantly, timely provision of inputs into our farming, to our farmers under the Intense Farmer Input Support Program. As we speak right now, Madam Speaker, inputs are being distributed and people are already beginning their budgets. In addition, sustainable agricultural financing facility was introduced in 2023 to enhance access to agricultural finance, and 8,000, almost 9,000 farmers access loans valued almost 800.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you heard about the the national budget. I'm sure everybody's got their hands on some sort of a document, or you read or watched the various. If you hear what he's saying, I think this must be one of the best budgets. Now, I'm going to pause from here and then try to simplify it. Okay. By the way, this is the Redtagmedia Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us. Join us. Click on the link that's provided for you, so that we can have a healthy discussion. And also, if you want, you can just post your comments, and we can read them, and everybody can see. But like and follow the page. So like and follow the page so that we can be coming here every week and have an interaction. But we're looking at the 2026 national budget, okay, and we're looking at what this budget is, okay. Now it's saying it's going to unlock Zambia's potential, okay, through inclusive growth. Okay, so meaning that all the industries within the country must be contributing to the national GDP, so that we can have a healthy fiscal balance. So major things that we're looking at, the budget in total we're looking at is about 53.1 billion kwacha. That's the whole total of the year of the budget, 253.1 billion. Now, out of all the 253.1 billion, this is the breakdown. Okay, so let's look at the breakdown. Okay, so we're looking at domestic revenue. Now, domestic revenue, we're looking at all these revenues that the government will collect, through taxes, through the mining industry, which is one of the major contributors, and all these other facets in the business. The total that's going to come from that will be 206.5 billion. So remember, the total for the total of the total budget is 253.1. Total domestic, combining all the revenues that the government will collect domestically within Zambia, without even going to other countries, we haven't even touched about borrowing and stuff like that. Just within Zambia in itself, you're looking at 206.5 billion. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. So 200 and hello, Mr. Simkonda, are you there? Oh, I think he has dropped out again. Mr. Simkonda, are you there? Hello? Mr. Simkonda, I think you must be muted. You must be muted. Check your mic, and so let's continue with the conversation. So what I was saying was this. The total budget on its own is 253.1 billion kwacha. Where will this money going to come from? Indalama shikafuma kuisa. So we're saying like, look, pali indalama shonse shachalo ga twashikolonganya. Twashikolonganya indalama shonse shachalo. Shikafika ku 206.5 billion. Indalama fe shachalo fe cheka fe bafunya kuma taxes, kuma mining, nama nani kana ya pusana ma businesses. Oko government ifunye indalama. It will be 206.5 billion kwacha. Okay? But here's the thing. Turefwaya indalama 253.1 billion kwacha for everything to work. Where is the other money going to come from? Okay, so now this is where the government will sit down and say, fine, we need grants, donor support. Let's look outside. Even the United States, one of the largest economies in the world, so what about us, a small developing country, Mu Africa? So Barandawe, in fact, combining ama grants, because kula wafi ama if you are Zambia without strings attached. Bamipera kofi ndalama oramwafwa ane ndalameshi. Ema grant ya balanda pot ama grants. Tenko ngole iyo ni ndalama fesha kwebati. Bamipera ndalama shalutu, maybe if you can use that kind of word, but bamipera njile bane ndalameshi onfieni in this way or in a more transparent manner, so that why you have everybody mipere ndalamati indalameshi shikabomba win, and then kwali bana donor support ama grants nama donor support. So toto nga mwachita combine tulera ndatika ba 12 we need about 12.1 billion kwacha from kufisa combine nama donor support nama grants kufisa fe combine funds. All right, and then nomba nga twalanda nomba shani ukukongola tulanda nomba kukongola nomba. Okay, so apa twachiranda pa donor support nama grants kirate nkongole iyo kwa fe chalo cha Zambia. So nomba lekeni tulande pali ukukongola nomba balanda dawe lekeni tukongole kona ife be na pape so that the balance ko shit yes, you know, the balance, you know, tufika ku 253 which has been budgeted. So wanda dawe pankongole fe sha external sha kukongola fe chalo outside the country today lore sha pali 34.5 thereabout 34.5 billion kwacha isha kukongola. So ngamwashita combine ndarama chonse ishi, it now comes to a total of 253.1 billion kwacha and a total budget bali. So that's the simple breakdown, and because that before kuchita sana complicate, you know, kuingira sana ma details if you fyama experts, you know, evengira muri fi ifwe tulero lesha fi budget according no for balembere according to the Ministry of Finance no ho bachite tabulate balera ndatinko indarama shirefu aika mu 2026 so that the chalo chainda pantansh and we see, you know, government operations and government wills you know, continue ni 253.1 billion kwacha in total. Okay, so now my allocations number vakakanya shani ndarame sha chalo ishi vakakanya shani because indarama nga shaisa nga twakwata shaba munani kani kukabo kwakanya number twatampo which sectors, which key sectors eyo kungafaike ndarameshi. What are the key sectors? So if you look the government wanda tawe vani turinga twachitana nikani twa muna bwino, you know, because we're dealing with the government. So public service, okay, katwa muna public service, you know, and all the government operations nefia shala fionse total ile fwa ikako it's about 92.6 there, about 92.6 kufunya mu 253 96.6 somewhere there. So mwafunyamo mu 253 mwafunyamo 96 so that mwaingishe ndarama mkulipirako ama domestic nkongole sha chalo, you know, because government naye ila kwa nkongole within mwabalipirako bali aba suppliers abantu abapusana mwabalipira okay. So ndarama in total and then futi mulamu inefi mwera ndata muli 253 yeah, we need also to service external debt. So na external debt na irefwa ikakuista service. Can you remember domestic debt needs to be serviced, na external debt needs to be serviced. But the good part is because the structure adjustment program here alipowewa HH for president, it has given us a headroom, you know, to do all these things that is happening that's on the 2026 budget. Because in qualifiati vane lipide nifie nkongole shonze vesha aba kunse, it would have been a big headache. So the allocation, you know, external debts, nefia shala gulipira ma suppliers, All those government functions, if it's chitika, believe it or not, nama elections, you have a budgeted. You budget for elections. You have to budget. There has to be a budget for elections. Unless if you but otherwise there's a budget for elections. So if you want to say fee, vaabika munani kani, and then vaputula futi vaingira munama, economic affairs. So economic affairs, infrastructure, and all those things, they're all within the budget. And the total that will become of my economic affairs, my infrastructure, you're looking at about 58.6. Okay? So you're saying that I mean she should have from 253. And then my infrastructure and economic affairs, you break it down, there's so many. Agriculture, tourism, we're talking about social sector, social cash transfer, all those other things. Yarimuri 58.6 billion. Thereabout. So it's all well broken down. And then if at the end of the day, calculate shows and ramensh, mwashivika pam. Mwarasa ngatawe bani. It'll equal to about 53.1 billion. A total budget. So now, Rambi Valera that in the budget yamadongo tongo. Budget yamadongo tongo bani. The budget yamadongo tongo. I don't know if that word exists, but the budget that we're having now is a very healthy budget, whereby twalamuna, social cash transfer, baba mayo, baba pokako tupia, ngabaya mukupyanga, ngabaya mukuchitanani kani cash for work, bale pokako tupia, balabe kala kumanani kani whereby they didn't expect that kutuba bashitako kabagi kabunga, ngaba pyanga kofi oroba cleaner kofi within the surrounding. Which is very important because abantu abekalam town, they may not see the real impact, but the impact is actually well seen. People in the deepest diolis, rural areas where they don't work and they all rely on this. The elderly, they don't have any energy. Right, they're odd, so they need to be taken care of somehow. So, okay, and I would have loved for people to come up with an alternative budget. But if we're just going to condemn the budget to say, oh, this budget is this, without coming up with an alternative budget that you're gonna say, oh, this, me, if I was in the government, this is what I would have done. Okay, and then what are you saying? You're just blowing, hot air. So turingiretwa tampo kupela nama real checks and balances. Ichintungana shiwama kutashabane. No matter how bad or how hard or how much you don't like or you dislike the current government, all over HH. Iriampia. I think we've got one of the best ministers. Sokotwane is one of the best ministers in his field because he understands the figures very, very, very well. And without him, we wouldn't have reached where we are, economically in terms of, having a healthy balance sheet. Okay, it may not be one of the best balance sheets that we need to see, but it's better than what we had, and we're keep on increasing in terms of how healthy it will be. So it's going to be more and more healthier each and every year. So the next year, this balance, budget is incredible. And of course, uh, we can say like, okay, why Apanomba? We because it's some time in point in the history twafikire pa stage ako bati mulekongula endalama eshingi okuukira endalama osho mulepanga mu kyalo. Okay, that was late for a deficit. We have a deficit, but the deficit is not as huge as it was. So deficit, it's not that huge. Deficit ilipo inono sana. So, and it's going in a positive trajectory, meaning that next year ikaba less and less and less. Paka tukafika pa stage yako bati, we will not even need external to borrow externally, because we'll be able to acquire everything within domestically. You want some revenues that we need domestically, only strategic things that we need if we want to partner with other people. But with the way the economy is going to move or is moving, with the insurgents in the mining sector, now as we're speaking, the mines are improving, large investments are coming. Every day, almost every month, we're hearing of a mine opening. Even the local artisanal miners, those are the contributors within domestically. And you believe it or not, illegal miners, and when the government said, and the president said, let licenses, let them do it in a more professional manner. It wasn't by mistake, or it wasn't by just to punish people. But you realize that they're just doing business, under the table with briefcase businessmen. We're losing a lot in terms of revenue. If they're registered and they have licenses, it's easy to track and it's easy to know how much they're contributing. So it'll be coming from there. So those are the things. Those are the things I wanted to tackle. And it's sad to see that the opposition, they cannot give us real checks and balances, despite a peak in Zambia's economy. It's I want to now, they're reporting that Zambia's economy is one of the best growing economies right now in Africa, and the investment is off the roof in terms of people who are coming to invest, because the climate is rich right now. The climate is friendly, and the climate is inviting for investors. They're saying, look, I would rather go and invest in Zambia than go somewhere else where I wouldn't know what's going to happen. But with a stable economy, with a stable political stance, and a stable president that knows what he's doing, my investors are Baleisa. Just the other day, we saw State House, the CEO of FQM, coming in, meeting with the president, and saying he wants to go and they want to open up, maybe two, or two other bigger, mines, in other areas, especially maybe in the northern circuit, because we all know, Central Province, Northern Circuit, the untapped minerals that have been discovered. All we need is just a big mine to go there and and revamp it and put it in real businesses. So all these things that are coming in, energy sector, a lot of money is going to go into the energy sector. It's part of the budget, meaning that alternative sources of energy in terms of solar, wind, and all these other alternatives are going to be a priority. And we're going to reach that target of 1,000 megawatts very, very soon. It may sound like a pipe dream, but very, very soon, it'll be there. So these are the issues that we need to look at, and look them with a positive eye, without being judgmental and without being malicious, because at the end of the day, challenge, and if you don't, give solutions, and you're just condemning, and then how are the people going to listen to you when you put up your hand to say, I want to stand as president? Because you're not giving us any alternative solutions. So all these, briefcase politicians, National Neka Party presidents, they have to step up their game so that abantu bena Zambia tumfweko formulela ndako finish. Okay, because if you're saying that, look, abena at Malawi formula, okay, Malawi formula, Zambia is not Malawi. Ku Malawi kulia valipusana na ku Zambia twalipusana, even though we're the same people, but economy yabo na economy ya Zambia nafipusana. If you come to Zambia, if you come to Malawi nafipusana. Economically, politically, it's totally different. So pipe dream at Malawi formula, it will never happen, because ichalo cha Zambia na aba munafe na ave nefe amuna Zambia oli onse waipusha tamye banjirawe bani era turechura kokuya, because at least we're seeing some help coming from the government in terms of all these other social responsibilities. Namachito, Navan, ama teachers, nurses. Very soon we're going to have, like, in next year, about 35,000 health workers will be employed. Over 2,000 teachers will be employed next year. So you can imagine if it couple huge numbers like this of people being employed, it would never happen in the last government. So thumbs up, and I think we got to give ourselves a pat on the back for Zambia. We have a leader that is unique, and a leader that knows how to lead people and push the envelope of economic development to a higher level than it was 10 years ago. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That ends my discussion for today, and we'll come and share and exchange ideas next week. God bless. Bye-bye.